Hey, Billy, Nick, I'm sitting in my car feeling compelled to write this email after finishing your episode on survival. Please forgive my ramblings as I attempt to compose my thoughts into a question. Our second daughter was born 3.5 years ago. She had a rocky start to life. We almost lost her in her first few weeks. Thanks to an amazing team of specialists and surgeons at just surgery at just 4 months old, she is now a happy and thriving little girl. Although with a few ongoing mental health concerns that take up valuable family resources. Shortly after surgery, my mental health took a steep decline, and I tried to be the perfect mother and blamed myself for her multitude of issues. I ended up so unwell that there was a time my husband would come home from work, genuinely unsure if I would be alive or not. As a result of this, my daughter and I were admitted to a mother-baby unit for nearly 5 months, including a failed attempt to return home. My husband was left at home with our 2-year-old who couldn't quite understand why mum had to stay in hospital for so long. Occasionally, he has also had to take care of the baby as I was deemed too unwell to be allowed to care for her. Fortunately, I've been able to have access to an amazing support network which has helped me back to being a mother I want to be, as well as being able to return to work. I have worked a lot and continue to work a lot with my therapist on self-compassion and letting go of things that don't matter and committing time and energy to the things that do matter. Throughout this time, my husband was under so much pressure. He was the sole income earner, had to keep the house running as well as looking after 2 kids and I. We've spent 3 years living in survival mode and yet still tend to disagree on what that means in a practical sense. When the house is messy, the dishes are piling up, there is washing to be done, he sees this as a failure and puts so much pressure on himself to fix this. I can see the fragility in life and choose to prioritise quality family time and enjoyment and connection with the kids, even if it means you can't see the floor through the toys some weeks. How do we find the balance of this for our family? Thank you for all the amazing work you do. I've shared your work with so many of my friends and family.
Yeah, I just want to say how amazing it is that people send in those really vulnerable stories. Like, you know, these, and we meet those parents where, they have to be admitted to wards and stuff. Like and I've done work on, mental health wards, and those people are just holding so much weight. There's actually a beautiful one of the tips, I don't know if you remember, speaks directly to that challenge of like the mess. But it is important to, I think, understand what is the different needs that we all have, and like the idea, because we spoke a lot about like the clean house and stuff, and there are some of us that like we function better if it's clean, but there's some of us where overall it's actually detrimental how much, stress it causes us to constantly be cleaning a house. And I fall into the second group where I'm just like,
Same.
I'm not enjoying my kids because I'm actually spending time worried about the mess, and then getting frustrated every evening about the mess. So I need to work on that. There's no quick fix where it's like just throw all the toys out or, get some process, teach them how to. I'm not going to be able to teach a 2-year-old how to pack up toys after he's used them. You know what I mean?
I can't teach a 5-year-old, so good luck.
But you know what I mean? So I think like understanding that and just, thinking about what's the balance for all of us. But I because I'm taking so long on these, there's a beautiful one at the end that answers that question specifically.
Okay, cool. Hi, Dr. Nick and Billy. This will always get answered, this question.
This is now going to be hundreds. Dr. Nick and Billy.
Bit of fun. Hey, I was frantically cleaning my house whilst listening to your podcast and felt the need to stop and send this because I also need retraining that a clean house isn't everything. There's been many topics that have come and gone and have been very helpful and relatable to my family, but this one landed just exactly when I needed it most. I've heard myself and my husband talk about our feelings of failure and only just surviving in the last 2 weeks more times than I can count. I've shed tears before and have even left the house this morning and moments after collection from school. Sorry, I'm going to reread that. I have heard myself and my husband talk about our feelings of failure and only just surviving in the last 2 weeks more times than I can count. I've shed tears before we have even left the house in the morning and moments after collection from school. I know it's a season, but this tough time feels like it's is ongoing, and I don't have the answer. Let alone feel like I know which way is up. I'm a mum of 2 beautiful boys. My eldest is 7. He is cheeky and wild and kind and sensitive, awkward, and such a light of our lives. He's awaiting assessment for ADHD, his busy brain struggling with learning at school and day-to-day tasks at home. And his worries, being left alone, locked doors, confined spaces, are affecting our day-to-day. He struggles to take in information when asked a question. He often ignores us, or lately the new thing is having an answer excuse for everything, which I know is developmentally normal and shows he is clever, strong character, but it still makes it very hard to get anything done with an 11-month-old in tow. What would you like for breakfast? Shoes on for school. Don't touch that, it's dangerous. Look before you cross the road, etc. Huge emotional outbursts about the smallest things that lead to aggressive outbursts physically towards myself and my husband. He's also really into name calling. Idiot, stupid, you're the worst, mum, I wish you were gone, in jail, etc. Very hurtful and sometimes threatening comments. And by no means are we perfect, but we do our best to not model this behaviour towards him or each other in our home. His biological dad and I were separated when I was 18 months old, and he sees him once a fortnight. He also has another half-brother who he gets to see when he's with his dad. The behavioural outbursts and difficulties worsen on his return home, which we are used to now, and know it's to do with the environmental changes from place to place for him. And we do our best to always meet him where he is at with grace. The arrival of his baby brother last year, and now we are moving house. His teachers at school have left mid-year, has all been huge triggers of change and also worsened things for him. My concern is what I'm missing. I have learned through PCP under every outburst behaviour, emotion is a need. But where I struggle, I worry I don't know what this is for him, and I constantly feel like I'm failing him by not connecting the dots as to what it is he needs. He's behind in school. His literacy and numeracy he is getting extra support for his numeracy and literacy from his school, and they're very supportive of this, but it's affecting his self-esteem to the point where he doesn't want to try, says he can't do things well, calls himself names like stupid, and it breaks my heart. I try not to dismiss these comments when he says them around me, focusing on validating and talking through how they feel for him, but sometimes I feel it gets too wordy and he disconnects. He's believed to have likely dyslexia, his dad does, along with undiagnosed likely ADHD, some ASD traits, and worries, anxiety. Often I feel completely overwhelmed and overstimulated to the point where I don't know how to move forward. Sleep deprivation for my baby, adding fuel to the fire. Then I listen to your pod and feel not only supportive but also guilty for feeling like this is feeling guilty because others have so much more on their plate than us. I just want to know how to help him. His social relationships seem to be okay. He struggles at times with other stronger personalities like him. He seems to be drawn to these children most, but overall makes friends and plays well with others. We focus on what he loves and gets enjoyment out of: music, playing rugby, basketball, Beyblades and other toys, and I haven't seen any signs of withdrawal from things he enjoys. But due to his behavioural outburst, both verbal and physical, I'm often left feeling empty. It hurts me to say, but I often feel like we struggle to connect as mother and son, and that feeling of failure and shame is like no other. I just want to be what he needs, to help him feel better in who he is. And I know it isn't the right thing to say, but I want to make it easier for him because at the moment everything feels so hard for him and us, really. We are in full survival mode. I know it needs to start with me, but sometimes it's hard to know what that should look like. I don't know if there is even a question in this, but it has been therapeutic to say anyway. I can't thank you enough for the podcast. It really is so helpful and hopeful. And I mention you guys, to anyone who will listen, please never stop your amazing work you do.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things in that. And yeah, the name calling, name calling makes me think of this week Evie was getting dropped off at daycare, and this kid, I'll change the name, this kid comes up to Annalise and is like, "Hi, I'm Sally." And Annalise is like, "Hi Sally, I'm Annalise and this is Yvette." And then she ran off, and when Annalise was leaving, she walked past Sally and was like, "See you, Sally." And Sally looked up and Annalise is like, "See you, poo-poo head." Annalise is like, how confident is that 4-year-old? Just throwing shade at an adult.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is. On a more serious note, there's a couple of things with this one. One is that, yes. So this is not a criticism. This parent's doing amazing, but invest in safe, loved, and celebrated, because there's just been so much change that this kid is probably feeling like the safety and predictability. And it's not about don't move house and don't do this and don't do that. It's about how can you give the kind of same thing that first reflection does of I will unconditionally support you and love you, and I'll go in when you're struggling, not kind of be upset and, whatever, withdraw. So the other thing is that there is clinical features of clinical anxiety are inability to focus and pay attention, anger, constantly needing reassurance. Those are things. I'm not saying the child doesn't have ADHD. A lot of kids who have ADHD will also have anxiety. Some of the evidence shows 40 to 60% of kids that have one will have the other. You just can't access the higher functioning executive stuff if you're constantly anxious. So just checking, is it anxiety? My final thing on this one is that you're right, it does start with you and him. And just kind of thinking about, how do we succeed? How do I reduce the expectation of what success looks like so much that me and this kid are just doing something together that we're enjoying and we're succeeding at? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it comes back to that.
Do you do that with both the girls?
Well, I think it comes back to what we were talking about before, what you mentioned before about just finding a way to enjoy them first.
Yeah, but you don't even have to jump on the train. Do you make an effort with that to just enjoy each of them and succeed in little ways?
Yeah. One likes bike riding. I love it. And we just do it at all costs.
But
love it.
Even smaller moments than that, I think you do. In the house, just each day. What's something that's just joy?
Yeah, just robots on the ground stuff.
Yeah, where it's not about brushing teeth. It's not about getting you to bed quicker. But you know what I mean? Because you can't. Those are not the times where you're trying to compromise and negotiate with a little kid and all that stuff. It's about, is there some space somewhere else that I'm just 100% connecting with this kid for minutes? I'm talking about minutes, being able to find minutes, but also having the mental capacity yourself. That's where the selfishness comes in. If you can't find the mental capacity yourself to have minutes, then it's not because something's wrong with you. It's that you need more support than you currently have. Anyway.
Cool. Hi, Nick and Billy. Thanks to the amazing resource and community that PCP is. The language it has given our household to understand our children has been phenomenal and supported our growth as parents. I have a question for you regarding survival. But first, backstory. I have a wonderful husband and 2 beautiful boys. One who is colour and movement personified and needs support unmasking and regulating. The other is a puzzle master and rapid fact generator. And is also an incredibly sensitive child. Both are incredibly caring and intelligent children. We have always been a busy family and household, juggling schoolwork, travel, social events, extracurricular activities, until recently when an illness rendered me incapable of doing the most basic tasks. Medication has got me to the point of being able to empty the dishwasher, make school lunches and cook dinner occasionally. But I'm mostly housebound and unable to drive. The kids have witnessed parts of my health that have scared them. They both worry terribly about me, which breaks my heart. The impact of our family has been massive. We're incredibly lucky to have a friendship group that is exceptional and a family who is willing to take time off to travel and help us. This, however, also has its impacts on those who help us and their kids, who find it difficult to settle when people are coming in and out of our house on a regular basis. The greatest load, however, is on my husband, who is now carrying the majority of the parenting load while trying to care for me and hold down his full-time job. While these circumstances are new for us, I know this is the norm for so many. So I want to acknowledge this. The emotional load carried by everyone is massive and takes its toll. Our eldest has had a significant escalation in emotional outbursts, understandably, which terrifies our youngest, also understandably, and results in him running to his bedroom or mine and cower under the bed. While, thanks to you two and the incredible care team, GPs and psychologists, we have a language for this and strategies. It is also having a negative impact on both our children, and we can only manage a situation well if circumstances allow. My husband is not running out of the door to get everyone to school and work on time. I'm well enough to help, etc. My question is how to keep everyone well and whole in these circumstances, particularly when consistency and predictability is near impossible, yet exactly what is needed. Thanks in advance for your time and consideration for this long email and for the sacrifices each of you and your families are making in order for the PCP community to exist. And no, there is no expectation of an answer. The cathartic nature of writing this email has helped me in and of itself.
Yeah, so many people say that. And it's, I promise everything gets read by me. And it forms how I operate in clinic, I think about myself, but also what we do on the pod.
Yeah.
So I think, this is an idea about like how do we see ourselves as a family unit and like everyone that makes us up. And there's a lot of single parents out there where they don't have another parent or a caregiver that's supporting them and thinking about that. I think it's also like, I want to say this gently, but there's a difference between love and care. And like caregiving, some of us grew up with like the idea of love being, I put a roof over your head, you got clothes, you got food. That's not love. Do you know what I mean? Like, love is very different to that. We've done a whole episodes on love, so I'm not going to go too deep into that.
What is love?
Well, just thinking about like my love of you, my love of my kids, my love of Annalise is like how I feel about them and how I express that feeling towards them. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, and especially if you're telling someone, I put a roof over your head, I put clothes on your back, like, do you know what I mean? And but it is, a lot of people grow up with like being told that is love. And I think, you can feel it in this person's question that they do have a lot of love for everyone around them, is thinking about their partner despite their own mental struggles, thinking about what's going on for their kids and all that stuff. But that alone is love. The way that person frames that question and thinking about giving yourself a bit of a break and actually going, I am trying to figure out how to do this. That's how you hold everyone together. And then you think about, what does that actually look like? How do we talk about this? How do we have feelings like? And I talk about this with Annalise. I don't know if you do, but I talk about like, how are we going? Like, what can we do that'll be better? Like, we realised that when Heidi was born, we actually don't do well without plans. Like, we sit around, if we don't have a very full weekend, we feel like we've kind of let the kids down. I especially do, because I'm like, these are the only 2 days we get with them. If we just sit around and do nothing, like, so we go out and do stuff, because that's when Annalise and I function best, when there's like lots happening and all those things. And some people, that'll be really overwhelming. They'll be like, we can't do that many activities in a weekend, but that's kind of what we've learned is needed for us. Like, we just need to go out and think about doing stuff, and it just makes it easier for us to celebrate the kids and not get caught up in like how messy the house is, how much work I've got to do, because I can't be on my laptop on the weekends if I'm out trying to catch up on stuff. So I make a real effort on that. But I think that kind of difference, what is actually love? It's different to safety. It's different to caregiving. Part of it is celebrating kids, though. There is a common thing there, an overlap, and thinking about that's often what our expressions of love look like, is just celebrating who you are. Like when Charlie does the, kind, caring thing to Evie, but also when he does something that's a bit of a mistake, and being like, how do I just show my love then? How do I go into him and be like, it's not going to change how I feel about you? I've actually worked really hard to get good at that, about like, if they break something, I'm like, it's just a thing. Yeah. I didn't grow up with that. I was like, well, that's it then. If you're not going to value your toys, you can't have any. Like, all of that stuff. But I've worked really hard at being like, when they break something, because I can see them get a bit scared or they get a bit worried about what's going to happen. I'm like, it's just stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, something got torn, something got stained, something whatever. Just like, it's just stuff. And that's probably anyone who sees me in public, that's probably justifying how disheveled I look.
Just thinking about when I was a kid, I used to break stuff. I used to hide it in the heat vents.
Oh, yeah. I used to
Mum
hide
found
something
it.
else
She's
in the
like,
heat
what
vents.
is that? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mum would be like, who broke it? And then they'd know it was me.
Yeah. I used to hide other things in the heat vents.
What?
I don't know if I can say that.
Oh, well, don't.
This podcast is brought to you by Guiding Growing Minds, a social enterprise that aims to give all children the best opportunity to reach their potential and succeed in living rich and meaningful lives.